Welcome friends to another r/ProRevenge video. Today we've got a story of getting revenge against somebody who hurt a dog. But first, a story from Magnus40. Apparently booking a seat on a train is not a real booking if someone else decides to sit there. I was traveling from Edinburgh to London by train and had a booked window seat with a table. I got on the train to find 4 guys sitting at the table. The one in my seat that was clearly marked as booked refused to move as he was with his friends and the train was packed. The ticket collector passed and I asked him to help. He asked the guy to move, but he refused and somehow that was that. So what now, I asked. You can find another seat, but I have no power to move him. Only the police can move him and they won't turn up just to move somebody out of a seat. There were no seats free in the carriage and probably not many free on the train. So standing to London was a possibility. I say, I'm going to take a seat in first class. Better surroundings, power sockets, and free tea and coffee. They say, you can't sit there, you don't have a booking. I say, well, you could call the police to move me, but apparently they won't turn out to move someone out of a seat. I had a lovely trip with power for my laptop and a wide, comfy seat. Does everybody out there agree that this action is totally justified? If they're not going to get somebody out of your booked seat and there's literally pretty much nowhere else to sit except first class, should anybody have the right to go and plop themselves down in first class then and say, if you're not going to help me out, I'm gonna take this seat from somebody else? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is from Leave Me Out of This. I am the gay agenda. This past week, I got the beautiful opportunity to mess with an LGBT plus phobic individual. I work at an academic summer camp. I love it and I have great supportive bosses. It's the only workplace where I felt truly included in my very conservative area. I'm a trans gay man. I pass well, but I come off very feminine. A parent contacted us about a discipline decision regarding her kid. She was absolutely pissed, just being totally unreasonable and saying we were disciplining her daughter for refusing to use another kid's pronouns. That was a very small part of a much bigger behavior violations, but her mom honed in on that piece. Mom goes off on the phone about how we need to have training on not that gender stuff, I'm talking real problems. That sorry if I get the pronouns wrong, and my daughter felt unsafe that a girl mentioned kissing a girl. In the background, her dad mentioned how we were using grooming language by using pronouns. Another coworker later found that he posted that meme where the man's holding up a shield with the rainbow hitting it, saying, I'll protect my kids from this agenda. Lovely people, I know. So then I had to meet with these people in person. They had never met me before, and after feeling horrible from their remarks, I decided to give them what they feared, the gay agenda. I dressed up in a tight tank top, pulled my hair into a bun, painted my nails, put on dangling earrings, and strode in with a floral cane. I leaned into my feminine mannerisms and voice. Her dad looked me up and down and went completely silent. He refused to make eye contact and stared at his hands intensely. He didn't speak a single word the entire time I was there. He was furious but knew if he said anything he'd be kicked off the premises. I shut him up for a whole 20 minutes. Apparently he was a lot more talkative when I left the room, so my presence alone kept me from having to hear him yell. And I just got to grin at him, letting him know that there was nothing he could do about me being openly queer. Happy last day of Pride Month, y'all. I love knowing that OP showing up and basically calling them out on this to their face was all that was needed to make them shut up and sit there silently. This guy seems to have some mighty strong opinions about everything, but when faced with it, oh, they're very, very quiet now. Our next story is from Swizz My Niz. You won't return my house keys? Good luck getting your kid baptized. Some backstory, I come from a very abusive household. I tried to make things work for years with my family, but ended up going no contact a few years ago. There was never compromise, and my physical and mental health were rock bottom with them being the source for almost all my stress. They are racist, homophobic, narcissist, entitled Karens of people, my sister being the worst. I was the family workhorse for car repairs, lawn maintenance, house maintenance, laundry, cooking, cleaning, you name it. I was told to do it and scolded if I had anything else to do or wanted to do. They would berate me any chance they get and continue to do so now. I know this all comes from a place of deep trauma and damage, but I don't think that excuses them for their actions as fully matured adults who have made their decisions in life. My sister was the golden child of the family. She would get away with everything, and I had all of the responsibility and abuse. She then grew up to be a near carbon copy of our parents. I won't go too far into specifics, but finally one day I have enough of it all and cut all communication aside from one family member who could get us in contact for an absolute emergency, in which I was legally required to be involved out of courtesy. When I cut contact, I asked for the keys to my house back for my sister, to which she refused and said, "Come get them yourself then." Whenever I would try, it would turn into gaslighting and a screaming match and I wouldn't get them back. I ended up giving up and changing all the locks. A month ago, my sister contacts me through that family member. She had a baby and has found a new interest in Jesus and would like her son baptized. She's only ever gone to church on obligation, never of her own free will. Cue the pettiest but honestly most satisfying revenge I could have ever had. She asks for her baptism records from me, as our mother had sent them to me years earlier for safekeeping. I honestly had not seen the paper in years, so when she asked, I honestly said, "I haven't seen it in years, but I can look. If you mail me back my keys, I'll consider looking." This girl blew up like you could not imagine, losing her mind, saying I'm holding her records hostage and how much of a insert derogatory name I am, but at no point accepts just mailing the keys. Tells me how I'm now stopping her son from being baptized. I just replied, "That all sounds like a you problem. Contact the parish who did the baptism and get a new one then." The last thing she wrote to me was, "Go freak yourself." It's been nearly a month since then. I still don't have the keys and I don't care. I found the record a week ago cleaning out old boxes and am genuinely thinking of just tossing it. But the smile on my face thinking about how unbelievably angry that Karen of a sister I have must be, I may hold on to it just a little bit longer. What do you think, friends? Honestly, in the comments of this post, there's some great suggestions. The top one is definitely take the baptism record, put it in a box, and have it keyed to the old house key that she still has. So once you lock it up, it's either they bring back that old house key to unlock it, or you better get to breaking open this lockbox. Our next story is from Radio Sushi. Don't want to help me out with our kid? No vacay money for you. My ex-husband is a giant child. 42, still lives off his dad with his doper girlfriend of a year. She doesn't work, and he was working at a head shop, but quit yesterday because real burnouts don't work. He'd been watching our son 3 hours a day since school let out. While I work, my parents have him in the morning till noon because he can't wake up that early. Since he quit his job, I asked today if he would go back to regular visitation, meaning he'd take our son Thursday nights again. He'd stop during summer since he worked till midnight and was too tired to wake up with our son, 7. Our son is super special needs, and that one night where he's at his dad's helps me substantially. Then went on to say that he doesn't have to watch him during the day, and he no longer would. I came home fuming. Then I got a text. His cable bill was under my phone number when we lived together, so it sends me the texts. This particular one bill said the bill was overdue $200, and then said, reply pay to make payment with card ending in so-and-so. I hit pay. Got confirmation that the payment was made. The best part? He bragged to my dad that he's taking his girl out of town next weekend with some money he'd saved up. Well, enjoy your trip $200 shorter, sucker. Honestly, I'm wondering, does there ever come a point where it's fair enough to go to your kid and basically tell your kid that the dad doesn't want to ever see them or take care of them during any other hours? Is it fair to somehow explain to the kid that the dad just sees the kid as a burden? Or is that kind of thing, despite the fact that the dad's not wanting the kid really around much, something that's not fair to try to explain to a kid at 7 years old with special needs? I'm kind of curious. By the way, if you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss any of my daily videos. Our next story is from GNU P. Terry. My mom recycles unwearable clothes. I wear them anyway. So my mom had a bit of a habit of making decisions for the family without asking the family. Stuff like volunteering my dad to host an event, or assuming I'd be happy to bake banana cake for her work party, or giving away some of our old books or toys, etc. One day I'm in the laundry shed when I find a dirty rag that's actually my favorite summer shirt. Apparently because I hadn't worn it in a while, reason being it was winter, I obviously didn't want it anymore. I tried to clean it, but the shirt was white linen and she'd used it for boot polish. The stains were not going to come out. Another thing to know about my mother was she was very keen on appearances, hence the boot polish. always politely suggesting us to get haircuts or new shoes, be neat and tidy at all times. So naturally, for the next few years, I started wearing the ratty, stained shirt everywhere, whatever the weather. Even after I outgrew it and it became more of a crop top, I still wore it to church. I still have the shirt, and although it's too tight in the sleeves to put on comfortably, she's invited me over for dinner this weekend. I bet she thought I got rid of it years ago. I just love the idea of this going on for a very long time. Like OP's wearing like a middle school shirt and they're like 25. Basically busting out of this shirt like the Hulk does for Bruce Banner's clothes. But acting totally nonchalant about it, being like, oh, this is my favorite shirt, Mom. Our next story is from Enter the Hellscape. Take away our amenities? Enjoy a higher water bill? At our apartment complex, the landlord pays for water, trash, and sewage, and has recently made it more difficult to use some of the water amenities. Over the winter, he put caps on all the outdoor water spigots. Cool, no big deal, that makes sense since it's winter. Well, about a week ago, summer finally hit, so we went to take it off and found the cap had a lock on it. Called up management to ask them to take it off, and they said they couldn't because, per the owner, people were misusing water last year, so it's no longer available. Last year was the hottest year in state history, and wildfires ravaged the area, so yes, people were using the water to spray the apartments to keep them from burning down. Our unit has a mini backyard with grass, so the outdoor hose was a great selling point for gardening, so that's super irritating. Additionally, a few months ago, one of the communal clothes dryers went out, and how convenient was it that the price to use a machine went up a bit as soon as they had to replace a broken one? Guess who just bought a mini washing machine? Can't wait to start doing laundry every week completely free of charge and to stop hand washing most dishes. Gotta use the perk of having a unit with a dishwasher after all. Next, we'll look into a hose hookup for the kitchen sink. Owner's penny pinching isn't going to stop this garden. The corner unit has an inflatable pool too. I should remind them to use it as much as possible this summer. In the grand scheme of things, I know my one unit using some extra water isn't going to be much to his bills, but it sure feels good. I would be really upset if I was OP, to be honest, because I feel like that's a major function of the house that's just being locked up just because they want to save a few bucks. If that were me, I'd honestly be like looking through my agreement for any kind of written thing, maybe that outlines water usage or possible restrictions on the spigot, because otherwise I feel like what they're doing here is pretty unjust. This next story is from Nervous Cobbler 8, changed the password before the Game of Thrones finale. I had recently broken up with my ex-fiancé when this happened. The breakup itself was cordial, but I think he thought there was a chance we would get back together. And after he realized there wasn't, he became less than cordial. He wasn't very kind to me to begin with, part of the reason I broke off the engagement, and during our relationship and after the breakup, would make fun of my appearance and intelligence, would fly off the handle about the smallest things, accused me of cheating constantly, and generally very controlling and hostile towards me. Anyway, the night of the Game of Thrones finale, he threw a big party for his friends. Costumes, themed food, etc. However, he was still using our shared HBO Go account. So, 2 minutes before the finale began, I logged into the account and changed the password. He didn't have the nerve to say anything to me about it, so I have no idea what happened, but he deserved it. If I were the boyfriend and this happened to me, I would be devastated, but I'd also get it. I think just from the sheer shame and embarrassment of having all those people there, if it logged out right then and there, I would go and just sheepishly immediately sign up for a new one all by myself, if possible. I'd be sitting there grumbling curse words to myself while figuring out how to get another HBO account in 5 minutes. Dang it, should have planned for this stupid cordial breakup bullcrap. Our next story is from Gato Trist Blues. Mess with my job? Have fun in your dirty bathroom mop water office. I took a temporary weekend cleaning job to cover for a friend who's having health problems. It paid okay, and as long as I had it done by Monday morning, I was good. I also had to clean a men's room in the machine shop, and it was pretty gross. For 9 months, I dusted, vacuumed, mopped, wiped down desks, and cleaned the gross bathroom. One Saturday morning, I walked into an office that sat alone in a small building in the middle of a large gravel lot. I was surprised to see a man sitting at his desk working, so I emptied his trash cans. and decided I'd come back at the end of my shift to finish up because I didn't want to disturb him. We chatted briefly and I left. The next weekend, there was a note on his office door that said, "Please vacuum and mop." I didn't think much of it because I always vacuumed and mopped. But this man told my supervisor that I hadn't cleaned his office in a month. He said he knew this was true because he hit a piece of gravel on his office floor, and it was still there the next week. My supervisor was pissed and told me it was the only complaint he'd had in 30 years. I was really upset because it was the worst job review I've ever had. I was also pissed off because what a jerk, right? I told my supervisor that if this guy hit another piece of gravel, that I would likely be the cause of their second complaint in 30 years, and then I put in my 2 weeks notice. The next weekend, I filled my mop bucket with just a few inches of water and mopped the men's room. The water was black when I finished. I then took the bucket of the black bathroom sludge to his office and used it to mop his floor because screw him. But since he'd complained, I did make sure to mop extra thoroughly. I'm an old woman and I've never done anything like that, but dang, it felt good. Honestly, I think it's kind of lame that they're judging how good somebody is at vacuuming and mopping by putting a single piece of gravel somewhere. Because let's be real, if you put a single piece of gravel off to the side, it could get knocked up next to the side of a desk or whatever. A vacuum cleaner might just not pick it up. And also, depending on how good the supplies they are supplied with are, I know some vacuums, they just don't have enough suction to properly suck up a piece of gravel. This next story is from Cloud Designer, punishing my ex-mother-in-law for snooping. So this happened when I was unhappily married to my ex-husband. For context, I'm a petty woman and hella passive-aggressive. We were recently married and bought a house about a 20-minute walk from his parents. I'm very close with my family, and this put me over an hour by bus away from them. I don't drive, and an hour's bus away from work. My ex did drive and his job was 20 minutes away by car. He wanted to live near his family and work because of petrol costs, and because I now know he's an insufferable mummy's boy. While we were living together, his mom still washed all his clothes. Because I once failed to get Biro out of one of his work shirts, and his mom still made him a packed lunch. He was 25 when we bought our house, 27 when I divorced his butt. The issue, his mom had a house key in case of emergencies and had a habit of letting herself in to clean while we were at work. My house was never dirty, and I took offense that she would enter our house while we were away to clean it. I also hated the thought of someone being in my home while I was not. I eventually told my ex to make her stop. This was after we'd been on holiday and I returned to find air fresheners in every room of the house, like it stank previously. Ex refused to talk to mother-in-law because why would he? It's around this time I notice our bedroom is also being cleaned, bed being made, sheets changed, my bedside table straightened up. My underwear drawer had also been refolded. Furious, I ask my ex again to make this stop. It's an invasion of privacy. Again, he says she's just helping us out, so he declines to speak with her. Upset and angry, I call my mom, who is where I've learned the art of pettiness. We talk and meet up in town the following day. We proceed to go to an adult store and buy the biggest, you know what, we can find. I return home and place it in my drawer. When I leave for work the following day, I place said, you know what, on our unmade bed. I get a phone call from my ex asking me if I'd lost my mind. I pointed out if he had spoken to mother-in-law, she wouldn't have seen it. He was mad at me for ages, but his mom never went in our room again. I'm just imagining this mom going to the bedroom, oh so ready to fold OP's delicates needlessly, and just seeing a big fat veiny one lying on the bed. Maybe in that moment they realized, you know what, maybe it isn't okay for me to be going inside my 27-year-old married son's bedroom. Our next story is from Kaboom Tech 1, ignore me and I'll steal your time. Waiting in line to get gas, pumps open, and the lady in front of me pulls forward to the first pump, leaving an open one in front of her. After politely asking her to pull forward and being ignored, I drive around and back up to the one in front of her. She finishes pumping before me, and as soon as I'm done, I grab my lunch and start eating it on the hood. She knows what I'm doing and honks at me, but only once. I look over, and we have a 10-second staring contest. A car pulls in behind her to wait in line, She can't back up now and is stuck watching me eat my lunch and play on my phone. Guy in line behind her went for the snacks. She's trapped and I'm enjoying my lunch. I'm not generally petty, but after ignoring me, I figured she wanted to engage in a passive-aggressive battle. 14 minutes after pumping gas, I'm done enjoying my lunch, she's free to go, and didn't make eye contact as I went back to my door. This petty victory shouldn't feel so good, but shamefully, it does. Whenever possible, if you pull up to the pump, do you make sure to pull up to the furthest one first? Would you ever commit this cardinal sin that this lady did? I sure hope you wouldn't. Our next story is from Flashy Entertainer 9. Report me for a county ordinance violation? Okay. Full disclaimer, there's other reasons why I dislike this neighbor enough to exact vengeance, which I won't cover here. Backdrop, several years ago, I purchased a home in a coastal paradise in hot, humid, and mosquito-infested Florida. The backyard was 2/3 fenced and included a tin shed that served more as a palmetto bug sanctuary than a functioning storage facility. My next-door neighbor, a decrepit old man, henceforth X, also had a 2/3 fenced yard, and his swimming pool faced my shed. One weekend, I felt inspired to tear down the old shed and began stripping the structure down. Due to the age of the shed, the bolts holding everything together were rusted through and impossible to remove without additional tools, aka tin snips. I apologized to X but informed him I would finish the work the following weekend, as I work full-time during weekdays. By Tuesday, X had contacted the county inspector, who was a friend of his, and lied, stating that I'd left the shed in disrepair for months, which violates our local ordinances. The inspector informed me that I needed to remove the structure immediately or I would be subjected to fines. I responded that X lied about the duration the shed was partially disassembled for, and that I would also have everything cleared out by the weekend, as I'd already informed X about 2 days prior. The revenge, since I was a newish homeowner, I hadn't read up on all the ordinances in my county. After reviewing the list, I took special note of the lawn care rules, which state grass exceeding 12 inches on a majority of the property is a violation, yada yada yada. And since a majority is not defined, it's a de facto 50.1% of the property. So, to this day, I let the lawns and weeds grow over in the section that's only visible to him from his pool, while the remainder of my lawn remains pristine. This has been my routine for the past 4 years, and will continue until the day he moves or is 6 feet under, whichever occurs first. Final note, he's on a retiree's SS budget, so I knew he couldn't afford to erect a fence between us. I've always hated neighbor feuds that go on like this. I've heard stories where people get the county inspectors involved, going back and forth, especially in areas where if you report it, you can report it anonymously. So imagine how weaponized that could be when you can call violations and report violations on a neighbor and you never even have to give an identifying name. It's like a free built-in harassment tool because the inspector at least is going to come out and actually do some kind of inspection. This next story is from AKS NITD. You better hope you don't need me as a roomie ever again. When I got my first job out of uni, I had to move to a new city. I didn't know anyone there. No family members, no friends, not even distant relatives. Naturally, this was a bit intimidating. This was way back in the early aughts, before we could find everything online. Finding a house required a broker or walking around and talking to owners yourself. Thankfully, 3 of my batchmates from uni had moved with me. We'd all gotten jobs in the same company, so we agreed to stay together. One of the guys said that he knew someone who could help us find a place to stay and was making the arrangements. Great, one less thing to worry about. We all had company-provided accommodation for 2 weeks to ease us in before we were expected to move out. By a twist of fate, I was put up in one hotel while my mates were together in another. Our first 2 months were training sessions. Since the sessions were organized by hotel, we weren't meeting during the day at all. I could only go talk to them at night. I kept inquiring about the status of the room and was always told things were moving along. Come the Saturday of the weekend we were expected to move out, I got a rude surprise. My mates had indeed found a place, but there was no space for me. They went on and on about how it was actually a 2-person residence and they had to convince the owner to put in an extra bed, etc. I was furious. What hurt wasn't the fact that they decided to move ahead, even if I was left out. What pissed me off was that they had waited till the last minute to inform me. We were expected to vacate the hotel room by Sunday evening, so now I had less than 24 hours to find a place to stay. I ended up spending the entire next day running around to brokers and finally found a shared room with a roommate I hated, but I had no choice. Fast forward a year, I'd since then changed houses twice and was living in a single room. At this point, I wasn't really in touch with my mates that much because they'd been put in different offices, so I wasn't meeting them at work. I ran into one of the guys at the corner store one evening and spoke to him casually, thinking nothing of it. To my surprise, he started asking me if I wanted to move in with them. I asked him what was up with this sudden change. It turned out that packing 3 guys into one room had gotten a bit too cozy for comfort, and they wanted to move to a bigger 2-bedroom setup, but they needed one more guy to split the rent. They didn't have anyone else to approach because everyone they knew already had roommates. Never have I ever felt as great as I did when I turned down their generous offer and told them to shove it. I later found out they never found anyone and ended up living in that tiny room for another year before they were finally able to leave it. I don't blame OP. If 2 guys who I thought were my best friends left me high and dry like that, why would you ever want to bail them out? If they turned around in the future and came to me and said, "Hey, we're actually thinking about getting another place together with all 3 of us," I think my mind would go to that glory days moment where we were all hanging out together, living in the same space, and it was great. And then that little angel would pop up on my shoulder and say, "Hey man, they abandoned you one time. Can you really trust these people?" I wouldn't be able to go back to an arrangement like that after getting burned so hard. Our next story is from Sharp Discipline 6544. Don't mess with my daughter's laundry. We had a neighbor who was a little entitled and a lot loud. He also had a favorite purple shirt that he wore more often than anything else. At our apartment complex, we had a laundry room for each building. Each building had 4 to 6 apartments. The laundry rooms had 2 washers and 2 dryers, but it wasn't unusual for 1 or more of the machines to be broken. I didn't want to waste people's time by leaving my laundry in the machines too long, so I would set an alarm on my phone 5 minutes before the machine would be done. One day, I put a load of laundry in the wash, which included laundry for my wife and kids. I set my alarm and went back to the apartment. When the alarm went off, I went to put my laundry in the dryer and start another load. When I arrived, I found that someone took my laundry out, still dripping wet, on the dryer, and my daughter's underwear were sitting right on top. I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming they did something inappropriate with the underwear. So I poured about half a bottle of bleach into the washer where his clothes were, and I took my laundry upstairs to hang up to dry. Needless to say, his favorite purple shirt was now multicolored. Okay, yeah, it's one thing for people to go and handle somebody else's laundry to yank it out of the washer or dryer, not even finished yet, but for somebody's child's underwear to be clearly placed on top, even if this is by incident, do you know how much of a sicko this makes the neighbor look? I would be keeping my eyes all over that now pink shirt wearing guy. And our final story of the day is from Salt Necessary. Verbally abused my dog and refused to give back my deposit? Enjoy not having internet? My old roommate is the type of person who is addicted to their Xbox and fills the entire house with the sounds of their delightful shouting. I moved out months ago, and they refused to give me back my deposit on the grounds that there might be damage. Fighting this one legally. Before I left, they would frequently yell curse words at my dog for being anywhere outside of my room, and even scream some at me when I said I was moving out. They apparently forgot I was in charge of the internet. So what do? The day before I left, I changed the settings to where the connection to their Xbox shuts off between specific hours of the day, in peak gaming hours. Not illegal, but very frustrating for the person who would literally scream if their game lagged. They're also not the smartest, so good luck figuring that one out. You know what I've always learned? I've always learned that the ones that seem not the smartest are the ones who have absolutely zero patience to just figure out how to Google for something. I guarantee you, if that roommate could take 1 hour to look up their router or look whatever supports their internet up on Google, and Google's around for possible troubleshooting, they might be able to figure it out. But would they ever dare sit down and try to figure it out on Google? No, they don't even know the first place to start in trying to search for something like that. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another revenge story that was way crazier than anyone in this video, click on that left video, or if you missed my latest video, click on the right. That said though, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.